Oh, welcome back to the Captain's Run. I come to you with a heavy heart, but an energetic spirit to try to do me best without the great Cameron Smith. That is right. The big news is that Smithy, he will not be with us this year. He gave me a call earlier this year, and he's basically just got so much going on in regards to NRL clubs and all that. His time, it's really hard. I mean, it's Cameron Smith. You don't understand the amount of people asking for his time is ridiculous. And so we were super, super lucky to have him for the time that we did. And also, when you stop being selfish and you go, damn, I don't get to, hear Smithy talk about footy all the time. From a rugby league perspective, giving back to, the next generation and, being a part of leadership groups and all that kind of stuff, that's where I feel like Smithy is going to be so valuable to rugby league. So, and I can't speak for Smithy. I'm not sure exactly what he's going to be doing during his week, but I got a feeling as a mate, I reckon that he'll probably end up in some kind of role where he's helping the next generation. He's helping people become better leaders because that's what he's so good at. So he's, we're not with Smithy this year, unfortunately. However, as I said, the game of rugby league gets one of the greatest, if not the greatest mind we've ever had in a better position to give back to the next generation. So thank you so much to Smithy for giving the experience. It was absolutely awesome. And, we had a chat and he said we'll do the part 2 of our interview, hopefully. So you may get the part 2. And who knows, he could pop in here now and there if his schedule frees up. But we're incredibly grateful. And I just can't wait to see what his next moves are. As I said, I can't speak for Smithy, but just as a friend, I reckon he will absolutely kill it in some capacity, helping the next generation, developing young men and women in rugby league. So wish him all the best in whatever he does this year. And, I'll be in touch all the time. I'll just keep pestering. I'll just literally keep messaging him. Hey, Smithy, can you answer me text? No, all jokes aside, very grateful. So all I ask the listeners, give us an opportunity, give us a chance. I know you're here to listen to Smithy talk about rugby league. I totally get it. So just give us a chance. We'll do our best to try. It won't be as good as Smithy, but it'll be different and hopefully enjoyable. So stick around. Anyway, we've got a huge show planned for you. First of all, we really want to get feedback. 0457 736 736. Who do you want on the show? What interviews do you want? We're going to really try to focus hard on getting the biggest names in rugby league on regularly, rotating guests through, really interacting with the audience that's listening. We're going to be really, really take the feedback from the audience. So text 0457 736 736 and let us know what direction do you want the Captain's Run, also known as the Rezzy's Run, because now it's just me. So there's no real captain, there's just a Rezzy. But I'll hold the torch. I'll hold the torch for Smithy. But welcome to our SEN 1170 in Sydney listeners, SENQ 693 in Brisbane, 620 on the Gold Coast. And also, everyone listening live on the SEN app, you can also download the SEN app and listen to it whenever you want. You can subscribe to Apple or Spotify, the Captain's Run, and listen to it. On today's show, Dylan Brown's massive payday at the Knights reported to be, it just keeps going up. I thought it was 13 million, now it's 14 million. Holy, over 10 years with the Knights. What does this mean for the Eels and the Knights and the rest of the competition? Winners and losers from round 1. The Broncos, Storm, Seagulls, they fly out the gates. What's wrong at the Roosters, Cowboys and the Tigers? I wouldn't put the Tigers in the Roosters and Cowboys category in my opinion. Player movement has started already. Brayley off to the Raiders next year. Reports are the Roosters are trying to free Francis Molo from the Dragons. Canberra Raider forwards, Horsburgh will join the show later. So make sure to stay tuned for Big Red. And we preview round 2 coming up. As I said, you can give us a call, 1300 01 1170, or you can text us 0457 736 736. Follow us on Instagram and make sure to stay tuned for all the topics we got today. Now, the biggest topic out of them all is obviously the Dylan Brown situation. So it's brought to you by Chemist Warehouse. Get discounted prescriptions and save more money every day at Chemist Warehouse. Subscribe to Captain's Run, Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Can also get us through the Bloke in a Bar podcast feed. Dylan Brown confirms a move. Everyone has been talking about this for a very long time. When it first came out that he had been offered a 10-year deal, I think a lot of the rugby league fans were kind of like, didn't believe it. We were just like, what, 10 years? That is usually reserved for, the tippity top. Not to suggest that Dylan Brown is not a bloody good player, and he's actually, I believe he's one of the best 5'8" in the competition. But it was still a huge deal for a guy that hadn't really achieved as much as other guys that have been offered that deal, like, say, a Taumalolo or a DCE. However, it has been offered. It's up to $14 million. He has been quoted, he has said on his Instagram, I have decided to take an opportunity that is best for me and my family. to the blue and gold family, nothing changes. I'm locked in for this year, and we have a job to do. Brown's current deal is reportedly worth $1.1 million a season. Under the NRL rules, the Eels have 10 days to convince Brown to back out of the Newcastle deal. Now the offer has been submitted to the NRL. I don't know if his current deal is worth I think that's what they were offering him now. Because I tell you what, if the Eels gave him an 8-year deal with all of these options to leave and also is $1.1 million a year, wow, that would be the worst deal in the history of the game for a club. I think that I reckon the reason why he had such a unique deal set up with the Eels is because he was getting paid unders. And that's the only thing that makes sense in my mind why after a grand final you'd go to a young 5'8" and say, mate, here's all these get-out clauses over every 2 years. You know, there's got to be a give and take in a contract negotiation. And I think that the give and the take on both sides would have been, we'll give you this really unique contract, but maybe just be on a little bit of unders for the first couple of years. Now, in regards to the Eels and the direction forward, look, it's an interesting one because, yes, losing Dylan Brown hurts. It absolutely does. At the same time, they've got their main man in Mitchell Moses. And I think they've probably sat there and gone, all right, look at the winning percentages. You know, Dylan Brown without Mitch doesn't have a high winning percentage. Granted, he's more of a 6, and also he hasn't had much opportunity to play and train at 7 in preseasons. Whereas I think their winning record with Moses playing would probably be pretty good. And so I think they've just gone, you know what, we've got one guy we've got to really make sure we keep. We'll offer Dylan Brown a reasonable one, but we're not going to break the bank. And so although I can be critical of the initial contract that they gave Brown, but also understanding why they came to that, because they had salary cap pressure. They lost Marnie, Papali'i, Niokore. So I understand they had salary cap pressure. I can't be critical of the Eels going, look, man, we can't get close to matching that deal. We just can't. I think they made the smart decision. I think Dylan Brown made the smart decision. I know there are some fans that are sitting there going, oh, well, you know, it shouldn't just all be about money. He should want to win a premiership. To be honest, I think the Knights are as close to winning a premiership as the Eels. So that talk to me is kind of neither here nor there. I mean, to be fair, last year the Knights finished high. The last 2 years, actually, Knights have finished higher than the Eels. So I don't think that really factors into it. I think that his want to win a premiership is equal if he's at the Eels or he's at the Knights. And in regards to the money, like, guys, $14 million guaranteed no matter what happens in your life, you're taking that. That takes care of your family. I spoke about this on my podcast a few weeks ago, but that decision is almost out of your hand. Like, it becomes not even about what Dylan Brown wants. You know, I think most blokes listening to this will know the one thing you want to do in your life is take care of your family. That would come above most blokes' happiness. I mean, how many of us walk up to work that we hate just to provide for our family? And so, yes, I understand it's completely different to earning $14 million and you're earning normal standard wages. I get it. However, it's still the same principle of that money will take care of his family, his wife, his future kids, their kids. That really will set up his next generation for the best opportunity at life. And you can't begrudge a man that. You really can't. I think that most questions really lie is Newcastle side. I think it's Newcastle side. It's like, what the 10-year length of it. I can understand the $1.3 million because it's a new salary cap, so the salary cap's gone up. So let's say in the old salary cap, you're paying a bloke, $900K. Now you're probably paying him 1.2. So the 1.3 I can kind of understand. I guess the big questions are the length of it and is he a 7? Is he a 7 and the length of the deal? Those are the two questions that we're really not going to know. The length of the deal we're not going to know until really the end of it. And is he a 7? Well, we're not going to know probably until the first 12 to 16 months if we're being generous of that contract, if you give him a bit of time to ease into that position. I think he has the physical ability to be a 7. Like, I think you look at guys like Jerome Hughes, there really is a push towards having guys that are athletically gifted and moulding them into halfbacks in this modern game of rugby league. And so I think that he has a physical ability. It's more just about like the personality traits. Is he more of a free spirit like a Cam Munster, or can he lean into the structured side of things? Can he lean into what Hughes had to be kind of do at the Melbourne Storm? I think he has the potential to do it. It's just a matter of, does he do it? But it's a tough one, mate. The maestro, he's with me. How you going? What do you think, mate?
Kempy, great to be back with you for 2025. It's going to be exciting. And I tell you what a story to start with. I concur with most of what you've said there. I have no evidence to suggest that Dylan Brown is a 7. Yeah, just what we saw at the back end of last year with no Mitch Moses, what we saw in round one, albeit off the back of a side that came out like a dog's breakfast and had nothing to run off the back of. He's got to show that to me before Moses comes back for me to be confident the Knights have made the right decision here. The length of the deal, I think, if you've been smack bang on the head with that, that is the question that is going to haunt Newcastle if in the early stages of that deal it's shown that it's not coming off.
Yeah.
That's how do you pivot from that? Because you are committed for so long now. If you look across all of sports, you can look at AFL, you can look over at the American sports, these long deals for players who haven't proven it yet, they come back to bite teams on the butt.
Yeah, and I think that one thing about this whole deal that I think it's the most dangerous thing is the guys that made these contracts and signed these contracts, are they going to be at the club in 10 years? You know, so let's say
no responsibility, right?
Yeah, and look, some of the greatest minds in rugby league are there. It's Peter Parr and O'Sullivan. So that's what gives me faith. That's when I start questioning things, I go, well, they know far more about recruitment in rugby league than I do because they've been there, they've won premierships, they've recruited, they've built clubs. And so that's where I go, they must be seeing something. There must be evidence that I'm not seeing just yet. Although I do believe he has the potential, I agree with you. I haven't seen it on the field just yet. Leading a team around. Granted, it's been behind a pack that's struggled. And so the tough thing is that if this doesn't work out, what will happen? Let's say it doesn't work out in 2 to 3 years.
Yep.
They'll probably move on, go to a different club, and rightly so. Their resume deserves to be at a different club when it comes to Peter Parr or O'Sullivan. Not to suggest that definitely will happen. I actually have faith that they can turn that club around because they've done it before. But if it does happen, let's just say worst case scenario, and then in 5, 6, 7, even 8 years, that next roster manager is dealing with a 10-year contract. Now, I've got a question for you, Maestro.
Yeah.
Does the NRL need to put a cap on the length of contracts?
I'm against that.
Yep.
Restraint of trade, all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
I think players, if they are commanding that on the market, I don't have an issue with it. I can't see you having an issue with that, would you?
No, I don't have an issue with it at all. I think that the only problem I get worried about is this like race to the bottom, and all of a sudden it creates this
a false economy.
Yeah,
is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, almost a prerequisite's the wrong word, but a precedent.
Yeah.
A precedent that, okay, this bloke got a 10-year deal, so I want an 8-year deal, 7-year deal. Now, granted, these 10-year deals have happened before, and it didn't just it wasn't a plague along the NRL. However, my misgivings are less than I would hate to restrict a player's ability to earn as much money as possible.
Yeah.
I'm always going to land in that basket.
Can I throw at you now? You said in the intro, right? What does it mean for the Knights? What does it mean for the Eels? When you say what does it mean for the rest of the competition, you've got Lachlan Galvin, Tyron Wishart, the next two big names that are young players that could sign that sort of length of deal. If you're the West Tigers or the Melbourne Storm now, are you sitting there quietly shitting yourself, or are you confident you can keep those guys with the strength of the character that they've got at the club, or the strength of the coaching, the opportunities you can provide, or are you suddenly worried that you're going to have to offer that sort of deal because of what the Knights have done for Dylan Brown here?
I tell you what, stay with that question because we're heading to a break, and after that break, we will be answering that question. Make sure to stay tuned, guys, and we'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run, also known as the Rezzies Run. Now, huge announcement. The Bloke Club. I have started a brand new club called the Bloke Club. And guess what? Thanks to Luke Camilleri of Aspley Mazda. Go to LDC_01. He's the best in the business when it comes to cars. If you join the Bloke Club, it's completely free. Go to www.bloke.club. You go in the draw to win a Mazda BT50. So go to the Bloke Club, bloke.club. Enter for free. There's going to be prizes every single month. On the 4th month, you have a chance to win a Mazda BT50. On the 1st month, we're giving away $2,000 cash to one lucky winner. And each month, we're going to give away huge cash prizes like that. So that's at bloke.club. It's completely free to enter. Anyone can enter. It's at bloke.club. All righty, we've actually got some live and breaking news. Dylan Brown.
Been here a long time now, so there's relationships everywhere that I'm obviously going to miss. But yeah, just making the decision on its own was pretty big one.
You posted that you've got to look after your family, and everybody, I think, understands that. But with the big deal comes a lot of pressure, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Knights have put a lot of faith in me, and they obviously put 10 years there in front of me. I didn't think I was going to leave this club ever, to be honest. I've been there a long time, and I've never really wanted to leave. But, like you said, there's other reasons to leaving. It's my family, it's my future. So the game's not long, and I'm trying to look after myself and my family. So I'm happy with my decision now.
Have you got into the detail yet of with the Knights in particular, whether you're going to play at 7 full time?
Look, I've obviously met with them and we've discussed the way we're going to play. Numbers on the back haven't really been discussed, but there's obviously a lot of talent there, and I can't wait to go there next year. Yeah, look, I've obviously been a 6 all my career. Last year I've sort of had an opportunity to fulfil that number, and I'm learning on the go. Obviously, if nothing happens quick like that, it takes time. This year, obviously, Mitch has been out, so I've got more practice. But, if that happens, I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to take on the challenge.
There you have it. Dylan Brown being, really honest there. Really honest. I mean, he making it extremely clear. It's about, the length of the deal, the amount of money. He's a professional athlete. And so I think that most people won't begrudge Dylan Brown. I did find it interesting, him saying, we have spoken about the style that we're going to play. And what I think that alludes to is, there is one thing that Dylan Brown is arguably one of the best in the comp at. It's at straightening up defences. And so I think that, the Knights are looking at it going, all right, can we find a bloke that can tackle? He's actually got the best defensive tackle efficiency of any 6 in the competition, and square the defence up to give KP as much space as possible. Like a very simple way of looking at it. You've still got to teach him how to manage a game. But those two things, he absolutely has. Like, he will give KP arguably as much space as anyone could give KP because of his running game, because of his footwork, because of his ability to square up defence. Welcome back to the Captain's Run, also known as the Rezzies Run. We actually got a couple of texts here that I really like the idea. I'll take it to the big bosses, the big wigs. Hey, Kempy, why don't you do rotating past and present captains through the show during the year? I like that idea, getting a captain on it each week, and then we can still call it the Captain's Run instead of a bloody fringe first grader run. Bloody hell. That's a bad name for a show, fringe first grader run. We've also got a call here, a call from Malik from Canberra. How you going, brother?
Good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
I just had a quick question.
Shoot.
First and foremost, go the Doggies. I just wanted to ask, do you reckon that the refs should have a press conference after every game to answer some questions and take some accountability week in, week out?
Mate, that's such a tough one, because if everyone on the internet was reasonable, I would say absolutely. Like, yeah, for sure. Be accountable. This is why we did this. And I think also it would actually be a really good exercise in refs explaining, because if I'm being honest, a lot of the wider audience doesn't know the rules as well as they think they do. And that's including myself. Like, there's been times where I've gone, oh, crap, like, I didn't even know that. So I think it actually would help in that regard. However, knowing the internet, I think no matter what, like, no matter how much a ref tries to explain a decision, if it's gone against your team, like, you're just not going to listen. Like, you are just going to... So I just wonder, in an environment where it's already hard enough as it is to be on the internet and get slagged and all that kind of stuff, do we really want to chuck our refs on there? I'm not sure. What do you reckon, mate?
I mean, I think that if they're sort of answering the questions and explaining why they've made certain decisions throughout the weeks, and then the other refs are hearing that, it'll cause a bit more. The cause will be more common. Does that make sense? And you'll sort of, like, if they're explaining why they're making that decision, and then another ref who would have let it go, or who you know what I mean, and then on the next time that the ref that hears it, he calls it, and then everything's the same, and you're not getting like differences.
Yeah, for sure. We are in this really weird position of, like, if we're going to make it black and white, let's make it black and white. Or we go the other route and we go, all right, every ref is different and they have a different feel for the game, but the audience is aware that ref is a different type of ref. You know what I'm saying? Like, some refs like to let things go, some don't. But we're in this really weird grey area where we're almost pretending we're very consistent when we're not.
Yeah. Yep.
Mate, it's a good point. Unfortunately, Graham Annesley, the NRL, I'm pretty sure axed that press conference that he has once a week, which I actually didn't mind. I had a lot of respect for Annesley coming up, and so even when I strongly disagreed. But I really appreciate the call, Malik. Really appreciate the call. Up the Doggies. Hopefully they go well. They look good in round one. First 60 minutes, they look good. That's for sure. But yeah, it's a good point in regards to refs. Look, it's just such a delicate balance because we already have a shortage of refs. So, like, what I want, whatever environment we can create to have the best referees, just let's do that. let's do that. Now, whatever that answer is, I don't know. What do you reckon, Maestro?
Well, I'm the same as you. For all the flack that Annesley used to cop with those Monday briefings, I think having that level of transparency there where you've got media in, and maybe part of it was to, I don't know, do a media sort of thing and let fans send in questions. But I think addressing that and putting it on the head, because I don't want referees going out and having to be slammed individually and being put out like that. Exactly right. They don't want to be. You don't want to be singling them out. You're exactly right in terms of refs' retention and getting them through grassroots footy. It all trickles down. So having Annesley there to explain, even when, as you said, we didn't agree with them, it provided that clarity on certain areas of the game where we weren't so sure, or perhaps were less known by fans. Someone described it as self-flagellation.
Yeah, it was honestly
I'm like, I know it became difficult for him at times last season, but I still prefer to have that there rather than us speculating about what's happened during the week. Because without that address, you are suddenly leaving it in the hands of experts who potentially don't know the rules as well as someone who's been doing it for over 30 years.
Yeah, you live in a vacuum, aren't you?
That's right.
Yeah. Whereas at least if he comes out, I've got something to disagree with.
Yes.
Whereas even if I'm like, I totally disagree with Annalise said, at least I've gone, I know their stance.
And I tell you what, part of the discussion that generated with us talking about the blocker plays last year with Cam has instigated a change.
Yes.
Right? Where we've seen a change in the way that is being refereed this year. And I think when you're working almost collaboratively, I'll get it out eventually, on that sort of call.
Mate, I couldn't get that one.
On that sort of thing, I think that's a positive for the game because discussion is good, vitriolic stuff is not so good.
Yeah, and that's where I just having been on the internet for as long as I have been now, I think I get as a fan, you're like, oh come on mate, it's a bit of chat here or there, but you don't understand when it's hundreds of comments every week,
it's impossible to ignore.
You just can't ignore it. Yep. And the tough thing for the NRL is that they have to engage with it because they need to know what the audience is thinking, but at the same time they have to protect their employees from it because it's harsh. It can be harsh. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Alrighty, we've got some text here. Without Annesley, weekly pressers would never have been blessed with the phrases like cynical disruptor. That's from the West Sydney Eagle. Hey, Kempy, Dan from Brizzy. Broncos currently have Staggs, Cobbo, Hetherington, Pakes, Jazeski, and Jensen off contract in the season. Who do you think we need to re-sign as soon as possible? Ooh, out of those guys, I would probably say a committed Cobbo. Like if he fully wants to be there and it's not going to break the bank, Cobbo. The only problem is I think Cobbo might be able to get a fair bit of money as fullback somewhere else. Then I would go. I'll go Jensen and Hetherington. I think with Pakes, we do have, even though we started the year really well, we've got Moser coming through, we've got quite a few number 9s. It all just depends on, how much they're costing. I will say, out of all them, and I think you've sent another text through, I think Moser is actually the most important out of all of them to re-sign, just because of his age. Like, he's so important in a key position. So I think that it would probably be Moser, Cobbo, if at a good price, Staggs at a good price because he's a senior player. But, yeah, probably Moser if I was going to go number 1. Now, more text here. Bulldog Richie has lost all respect. I've seen he's written an article, headline, Why the Roosters Should Be Admired, Not Hated. Wow. That's big coming from a Bulldog Richie. Oh, wow. I know it's early in the season, but what do you think the chances are of Crichton keeping his New South Wales second row spot? Ola Kawatu surely has to get a look in after being dropped last year. It's a great question because, the Roosters don't look great and Crichton didn't look as good, anywhere near what he has in the past. However, I do think if Crichton is playing really well, he should keep it. But I don't think it's as locked as some people would suggest. Like, I think Crichton you'd probably keep in the roster if he's playing well. But Ola Kawatu is in such crazy form that if he continues this, obviously, that he'd almost be too hard to ignore. I think if you're going to have Ola Kawatu in there, you start him and just give him an opportunity to really work with his 6s and 7s. So I tell you what, the edge back row for New South Wales might be the most stacked position in the history of the bloody game. You've got Keon, you've got Cam Murray when he's fit if you want to, you've got Liam Martin, you've got Angus Crichton, you've got Ola Kawatu, you've got Preston, you've got Dylan Lucas, you've got so many players, and I'm sure I'm forgetting someone as well. D-Man, why is Tanner Boyd not playing halfback and Luke Metcalf 6? Could be a long season if using Chanel at 6 up the wires. P.S. We might need a winger. You available? Oh, mate, the last time I come, I wasn't that great. I can't come again. You'll kick me out of the country. In regards to, look, I agree, mate. Like, I think, if I recall correctly, I think Tanner Boyd might have been injured for some of the preseason, so that might have some say in it. I personally think Tanner Boyd at 7 is a much safer route with Metcalf at 6. You just get his kicking game going. You get Metcalf on the back of some quick play the balls. So I see what you're saying. I definitely see what you're saying. The next 4 weeks are vital for the Warriors because the pressure will start to mount on Webby. Like, they had such a good year in that first year. But they've just, the pressure will start to mount. However, I think they made a really shrewd signing in Fisher Harris. I think he's going to really build some culture. Okay, let's get to some big news. The Sydney Roosters are showing interest in signing former Queensland Origin prop, Molo, according to reports of the Daily Telegraph. The Roosters have a substantial amount of spare cash in the salary cap, which was originally kept aside for Joseph Manu at the back end of the year, but he signed with French Rugby. The embattled Roosters obviously got beaten by the Broncos by a substantial margin. They're also discussing potential approach to the old Warhorse, Hargreaves. See, when I see this is what I was talking about what, and I spoke about this on my podcast on Monday. What I'm so surprised at the Roosters is it seems like, and look, I don't know the inner workings, because it's two things. It's either they've not prepared well for the amount of people that have left, or they are gearing up for massive movement in the market. And so I had a guess, months and months ago that there would be 2 huge signings this year. They've already landed Reece Robson. And so I refuse to believe that the Roosters came into this year so underprepared. They would only come into this year intentionally underprepared because they're building a war chest for someone. Because, otherwise, unfortunately, it's not good management, in my opinion. I just think that, and I know that they came out after round, well, they might have said it before, but they came out after round 1. They said that, they're really putting faith in the young fellas. But even then, I'm not seeing, the next generation of guys coming through, in key positions who you've got Sam Walker, who's obviously injured. You're moving on Brandon Smith. You've got Reece Robson. Is Sandon Smith going to be the long 6? Is he going to be the long-term 6? Tedesco, who replaces Tedesco? Manu has just re-signed with French Rugby. And so I do think pressure is mounting at the Roosters. And so I hope that it's more along the lines of they're building a war chest and they're about to land a huge number 1 or number 6. But even then, just the loss of Hargreaves in the middle is so substantial. Let's get into it. We've got a call already. Big Al from Rhodes. How you going, brother?
G'day, mate. How are you?
Very good, thanks. What's your question?
Okay. Well, basically, I'm a Parramatta supporter here, mate. So I've got to cop it on the chin with Dylan Brown. Mate, if it was my son, I'd be driving him down to sign the contract. So I've got no issue with that.
Yeah.
What I've got an issue with, Denon, is the journos that have been writing about this for the last 8 weeks. There's 2 journos, and they've been writing about the same topic for 8 weeks, and they're almost trying to whitewash it with the public to say this is a fantastic deal for Newcastle and it's going to put Newcastle back on the map. Mate, do they honestly think we're that stupid? I mean, quite obviously, the journos would have to be friends with the managers or the recruitment officer up at Newcastle or whatever, mate. We're not dumb. But they're trying to whitewash it. No one in their right mind would say that a $13 million 10-year deal is common sense in any way, shape or form. And mate, these journos, and it's the 2, they're most probably mates of yours, mate, so I don't want to mention their names, but you know who they are. They're Queenslanders, and they haven't stopped writing about it for nearly 8 weeks. There's other things that are going on in rugby league, mate.
Mate, I will say I live in Sydney, so I actually don't know the Queensland journalists that well. Listen, are there journalists that may have relationships? Yeah, I think there might be, and I agree with you. Sometimes it gets very, very frustrating when you can see the agenda, in some cases. But it's like anything, mate. You get your bad eggs, you got your good eggs. But I do understand from an Eels fan's perspective, or even just a rugby league fan's perspective, I don't think there's many people actually going this 10-year deal. It's a good deal to get him at the club. I think we all agree Dylan Brown's a bloody good player. But I think you wouldn't find many people saying 10 years is a good deal. However, let's say he does go and kill it, and the 10 years is what got him to the club. We just have to wait and see. But anyone saying it's a good deal now without actually seeing how it plans out, I think that's a bit of a... Because I put it this way, like, if it was a 2 or 3 year deal, there's been a precedent set for that forever. Like a 2 or 3 year deal is a standard deal. It didn't work out. That's all good. But yeah, it's this unique length that makes it a unique situation. So I agree. I do agree with you, mate, in regards to we don't bloody know if it's going to be good or bad. It could... Like, for example, if you had asked me Jason Taumalolo's deal was good 5 years ago, I would have said it's the bloody greatest deal you've ever seen in your life. Now, he's on the outer, he's not on the outer, so I get your frustration, mate. I really do.
Dan, and one last thing before I go, mate. What happens when they start trying to re-sign some of these young superstars that they've got?
Yeah.
And they've got to quibble over 50,000 or 100,000 to get these guys over the line. And some of these young kids or their managers say, hey, wait a minute, guys. Hey, you've just paid this bloke $1.3 million for 10 years and you're squabbling over $100,000. No, I'm leaving. Mate, it's like a domino effect then, and it's going to have an effect going all the way back to some of their new recruitments, mate, and I'll guarantee that because there's only one way it can go. Yeah,
mate, look, it's a great point. I will say the only way that doesn't happen is if he arrives and hits the ground running, because then the Knights can turn around and go, hey, hang on a sec. We're playing top 4 footy right now. That's why he's getting paid that. But you're right, though. If they're not in the top 8 or if they're like fringe top 8, a lot of young guys, let's say there's a young Kiwi fella that's part of the, he's playing fullback for the Kiwis or something. And I'm just throwing a random name out there because obviously Ponga would be bloody playing fullback, but just random position. Yeah, you would be like, hang on a sec. Like my player, here's his form. It's as good as Dylan Brown's potentially. And so I think the only way to kind of quieten that noise from the Knights' perspective is runs on the board. And that's why Melbourne Storm, a lot of people go, oh, well, look what Melbourne Storm do. They put all that money into the big three. Yeah, but those big three deliver. Like, Cam Munster, Hughes, Pappy have all won a premiership grant. They've all won a premiership. And also they've all played Origin or for their country. And they continue to keep their team in the top 4 or top 2 usually. So, yeah, mate, it's... Yeah, I get it. I get the frustration. I really do. And I, that was actually the really good thing about Vegas is just speaking with the rugby league community and just getting the feel, because they're the lifeblood of rugby league. Without the community, it doesn't exist. They're the one that put their hard-earned cash into it, so they have every right to have a say in what's going on. All righty. We're going to get to the next topic, shall we? In regards to the Roosters, just to tie that up, Maestro, mate, what do you reckon? Is it getting... I feel like there are Roosters fans... Last year, they're probably going, we made a prelim. Okay with that. But after this start at home, 50 points, I think there are some Roosters fans looking across to each other going, what's going on here?
Well, I think they were banking on a couple of things. The first is that Joey Manu would be back.
I thought he was going to be back.
And now the fact is he isn't going to be because he's taken up a deal in French rugby. So there's number one. They've left some room in their cap for that, which means that they can go out and be aggressive, right, with this Francis Molo deal that is reportedly they're trying to drum out. But I agree. If the thought is that they're going to have a rebuild year, is that going to go down well with Roosters fans? Is it going to go down well with the Roosters top brass more than anything? Because this is a club that is synonymous with success, that expects it, that builds for it, so that they're not having lean years like they look they're set for this time around. So I really think it comes down to what your expectation is for the Roosters. Are you one who sees that they've got the capability to go out and be competitive every year? Or, hang on, most clubs in the NRL have this situation where they'll go through a lean patch. And the fact is the Roosters will be able to rebuild from it quicker than most. But if you're not accepting of that, then, this is going to be a disappointing... They weren't in my 8 at the start of the year. I don't think you had them there either.
No, I didn't. Just quick correction from the text. Thanks, Mark. Harry Grant has not won a premiership. You are correct. It was Brandon Smith.
He will this year, right?
Potentially. It's Brandon Smith that was paired with Cameron Smith. Apologies, mate. But, I mean, Harry Grant is literally the best number 9 in the game. So, and also killed it at Origin, taking them to a grand final, and the captain of the club. But you are right. You are correct. In regards to the Roosters, my personal opinion is if they came into this season and this is the squad that they prepared to have for after all those players left, and they're not gearing up for huge market pushes, I personally believe that Roosters fans will be disappointed with that. Now, if it's like 2016 to a degree. Now, 2016, people do try to point to that, but people forget a key thing that happened in that year. It was a Mitch Pearce situation.
Yes.
Off-field drama, and they came second last, I think. But they had huge recruitments the next 2 years. And so if the Roosters go out and have like a massive recruitment run, then I can go, Trent Robinson has every right to stand on and say, hey, I've done this before, guys. So let's just pump the brakes. Yeah, the last 5 years hasn't been as successful, but I've done this multiple times before where we have a down year and then within 2 years we win a premiership. But the problem is that after the game, Trent Robinson came out and said, we're going to back our youth. And so I'm just caught in between, is it a down year to bring the youth through? If that is true, I still don't think that. I think the Roosters are better than that. I think the Roosters are better than going, okay, we're just not going to make the 8 because of our youth kind of thing. However, if it is a down year to build the cap up to go after big stars, they've done that before, so it kind of makes sense.
That's the one thing that you lean on and go, okay, the Roosters have that capability that a lot of other clubs don't. The one little emergency siren that started going in my head was reading the report that they were exploring the option of buying out Jared Warrior-Hargraves' contract in the Super League.
Now, that's true.
That speaks to
I refuse to believe it.
Yeah, exactly.
I refuse to.
Like, until we see it, right? But that just set off a little alarm in my head that maybe not is all going as swimmingly as they had it planned.
There's no way. I refuse to believe. We're talking about the Roosters here.
Yeah.
That they could be so unprepared that they go back and get a Jared Warrior-Hargreaves. I think if that happened, I think people need to be held accountable if they were to do that, because that's crazy talk. So I don't think that's true. I think that, look, maybe there was whispers and it's gone down the grapevine and that's how it's got out. But mate, the Roosters are the best operators in the business. I think it's
okay. Just on the Molo side of things, does that signing fit if they're able to get it done?
Again, another situation where I go, okay, why are you signing front rowers round 1 into the season?
Yeah.
Like, the Roosters, that's where
they would get it prorated. That's the one thing that I look at.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like
a value buy.
Yeah, a value buy. I like it. But I just think that the Roosters have, whether they tried to prepare for this year and it didn't work out, or they didn't, or things haven't gone their way. I just think that there's a few cracks, in the preparation for the Roosters this year. I think that they didn't land for feeder.
Yes.
The Brandon Smith thing hasn't worked out. They nearly lost Angus Crichton. Sam Walker, he was dropped into reserve grade, then brought back in and, eventually worked out, and he's his team now. And so, I think there is a bit of pressure internally at the Roosters at the moment. I still lean on the fact that I think they're gearing up for something big, because I just have too much faith in that administration. Like, that administration is arguably the best in the business. Like, in regards to, outside of rugby league and everything they've achieved, like, it's one of the strongest boards in Australian business, let alone rugby league. And so I just think they're too smart operators to allow this to just kind of rock up to 2025 and 26 and not have a plan. I still believe there's going to be some really big signings for the Roosters.
Can I steer to their great rivals down at South Sydney?
Yes, of course.
So, Michaeli Ravalawa, according to this report from the Telegraph, looking to be moved out of the Dragons so that they can side David Clemmer. There's another little subplot in all of that. But then rumours abounding as well in the grapevine about Brandon Smith potentially moving.
Yeah, and it was getting louder and louder.
Ravalawa seems to be the obvious replacement in the short term for Tyron Munro, and how disappointing that is that he's gone in for surgery today. But those two signings, is that what they're needing at the moment to launch them towards the top 8 tilt this season?
Yeah, look, I think if you're Alex Johnson, you're a bit like, oh, how you going? Because he's back relatively soon, is he?
Yes.
And Ravalawa being brought into that squad, look, it's rugby league. You bring depth into the squad. I actually don't mind it because their outside backs are quite light. Just depends how much you pay for him. And also, I wouldn't mind seeing Ravalawa under Wayne Bennett, because when we talk about potential, like, wow, Ravalawa has potential. It's just a matter of reaching that potential. In regards to Brandon Smith, if there's one coach I want him under, like, outside of Bellamy, Wayne Bennett is probably the best coach with handling a rogue personality. And so I just think that it's where you play him. And I actually would be playing Smith. If Cam Murray is fit, I'd be playing him as basically like a front rower that can fill in as a 9. I wouldn't be signing Brandon Smith as an out-and-out 9 at the club. I'd be doing his supplement the 9 jersey. He's a good 9, but he's a bloody good forward. Like, he's a really, really good forward. So I'd be using him almost as a front row. So actually, I don't mind both of those signings. It just depends how much it's going to cost you.
That's always the question around these signings, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing people look at. Okay, they've brought this player in. How much?
Mate,
how much are you paying
absolutely
to bring those players in? And it looks like the Roosters got Brandon Smith at slight overs. If South can get him at unders, we know the potential that he has to break open this competition, winning premierships. So,
yeah, I mean, I firmly believe that the Storm took at least 2 to 3 years to recover, trying to find someone that could do what Brandon Smith did for them in those periods. Like the amount of momentum he would get for the Storm, they really struggled for a couple of years. And now, they've recovered since. But I think Smith focused under Wayne Bennett as a forward that's not breaking the bank. I really like it.
And being used in almost a complementary role, right?
Yep.
Not shouldering the burden that he was almost expected to at the Roosters while Connor Watson was out.
Yep, absolutely. All right, we've got some text here. G'day, Shagger. The Roosters didn't miss Fafita. They missed Hunt and Gagai. They are missing a lot of players lately. Not so on. There's big problems there. Fair enough. Me personally, I have such high standard for the Roosters. Even with all those players missing, 50 points at home is concerning, especially with how they trialled. And I'm trying to look, when I look at their squad in the planning forward, I'm still a bit unsure of like who is the next big thing to take over from Hargraves. Is it Spencer Leniu? Potentially. However, he hasn't done that yet. I know he's been injured, he hasn't had the opportunity. Is it Lindsay Collins? I mean, Lindsay Collins has been bloody good, but he can only do so much. Every week he is putting everything on the line. He needs a bit of help. You look at 13, it seems like Trent Robinson doesn't want to play Radley there. He wants to play him on an edge. Look, it's interesting. Absolutely huge call. One round, and you're dropping Nanai from the side. I got to say, look, Nanai has always had problems defensively. Attacking, I agree with Payton in regards to attacking-wise, he's elite. Defensively, he needs a bit of work. One round, it's a tough call. And I guess the tough thing, when you're trying to send a message, you want it to be a consistent message. And I guess the hard thing from Nanai's perspective is I don't think anyone really defended well that night. So there are other players across the board at the Cowboys that haven't defended well. That's been their Achilles heel for at least 2 years now, is their defence. And so I think Nanai's, he could be a bit frustrated and feel harshly done by one round and then spend some time in Q Cup. So that suggests at least 3 or 4 weeks. I don't know. That Payton, it seems sometimes he does very open about speaking specifically about a player. We talk about Taumalolo when he first got to the club. I don't know how that hasn't really turned out as well as we'd hoped. The Nanai one. What do you reckon, Maestro? What do you think?
Well, I'm wondering if this is him sending a message to the rest of the squad. He's saying Jeremiah Nanai is a big name for us, one of our key players over the last couple of years playing State of Origin. So is that saying to the rest of the squad, hey, everyone's in the firing line here. It doesn't matter what your reputation is, what you've done in the past. If you're not living up to the standards we've set for ourselves, can you think of examples of that in the past in teams you've been a part of, Kempy, where a coach has been that direct in going at a player, well, not going at a player, but addressing what he thinks they need to improve publicly to put the rest of the team on notice?
As I said, it's a tough one because your message needs to be consistent because, the implication here is everyone else defensively was pretty good, but Nanai is just nowhere near the standard we needed to be. When I disagree. I actually think across the board, Cowboys defensively haven't been great for a couple of years now. And so I get you. I see what you're saying. And I do think, I agree. I think that is a message he's trying to send to everyone. He's an Origin player, Nanai. His defense needs to be better. But I guess the hard thing is that, it's been a couple of years now and there's been a lot of players in that side that defense hasn't really been there from. Attack-wise, they're an incredible side. Yep. And to be clear, the Cowboys are such a strange side because they've still done well. They had that 1 year where they missed, but outside of that, they came second or third. Then they came fifth or sixth, and I think they came fifth this year or something like that. And so they've done well. The Achilles heel has always just been their defense. And so, look, I can't knock Payton too much because he needs to send a message quickly because also he would be getting frustrated because he knows defense is their issue. And so I understand the message he's trying to send. I get where it's coming from. It's just a matter of this Cowboys team just doesn't seem to respond to Payton's willingness to try and sort the defence out. Now, whether that is the system not working, is it Payton's ability to communicate it? Is it the players not responding? But again, I always go back to the fact that we talk about this essentially every year with the Cowboys, at least for the past couple of years. But at the end of the day, they still finish in the top 8. They're just such a strange team to get a read on. Because, like, if you're a Cowboys player, you're kind of like, well, yeah, okay, we don't have the best defense, but we're still finishing top 6. So, like, the urgency to fix it should be higher. But I can understand why it isn't as high because they go, well, we're still finishing the top 8. So, yeah, it's a tough one. I'm really hard where I land on this one. I get where Payton's coming from. I like the fact that it's very obvious that he knows defence is their issue. But after one round, it's a tough call. Time will tell. Time will tell whether it's the right call. It could be the make of Nanai because the potential of this guy is absolutely
still
incredible.
young as well. Like a lot of that squad.
22. He's like 22. Like people forget how young Nanai is. What do you reckon? Right call, wrong call?
Putting me on the spot, I go wrong call just on what they're going to be able to get out of this weekend and trying to have that squad together, which they seem to have, right? The atmosphere in that side seems to be pretty positive. It seems to be a group that gets on well. I wonder if that's part of the reason is that he's signalling to them, hey, you know, it's nice to make top 8s and it's nice to be playing finals football and we are good enough to take that next step. And I think you have hit the nail on the head there where it could be the making of Nanai if he responds in the right way to being dropped down. And perhaps the whole squad as a result are galvanised a little bit when he comes back in and, hey, we've got this nice little extra bow to add to our kit that we can throw in later in the season.
Well, just for listeners, Nanai had 2 runs on the weekend.
Yeah. So that's part of it too. Like he's taken out the defence there, but he's clearly not coming to round 1 performing in the way that Payton wanted him to.
Yeah, and it's more, I think it's, like I know the very easy and clean answer from Payton is defence.
Yes.
But in reality, I think it's effort that I think that Payton is probably sitting there going, listen, I can cop you. Like, for example, Dearden missed like 7 or 8 tackles.
Yes.
But it wasn't for lack of trying. He was just a smaller body against a huge back rower. And so that's where I'm a bit on the fence in regards to like, mate, 2 runs. It's very hard to defend. You're one of the best attacking back rowers in the comp. If you're not going to be strong in defence, at the very least, you've got to have more than 2 runs. And so that's a hard pill to swallow from Todd Payton. You come into round 1, you're fit, you've done this whole preseason, you've got a star back rower that you signed on a long-term deal, and he's given you 2 runs. So I probably would have waited. I would have given him another round just to go, mate, and I'd put him on notice. I'd be saying, mate, if you do that again all season, you will be immediately dropped. Like as in, if you don't have more than, I wouldn't put a number on there, but like 2 runs is just not enough. So I probably would have given him a round or 2, but I can understand where Payton's coming from. I can understand where he's coming from because he needs to send a strong message quickly, in my opinion.
Is there any responsibility on the coaching staff for the way they sent them out there? I know, it's easy to say in hindsight, Manly run over the top of them, but they were mismatched on the edge Dearden was on. Is there... I mean, how much can you do as a coaching staff to negate that before the fact?
Well, the problem is they moved Nanai from right to left.
Yeah, right.
And I think they did that because they wanted Bateman next to the rookie in Duffy.
Yeah.
And so that's, ironically enough, it came back to bite them.
Exactly.
Because they actually attacked, first of all, they wanted to work Dearden over to take him out of the game. And they also attacked Purdue, who's basically a rookie. So I can't, as I said, I can't begrudge Payton too much because, 2 runs, defensively on that edge, everything really does work off your 4 defender, which is your back rower. Not to suggest that he's the reason why, Purdue or Dearden missed tackles. He's not. However, I think that like if you're looking at it from a technical perspective, I'm assuming Payton was sitting there going, okay, we're getting smashed on our edges with Dearden. Nanai, I need you to be not allowing DCE to having so much time. Because DCE just had so much time on the weekend, and it's the back rower's job to just go straight through his ribs. And you didn't really see that. And I think that that's what Payton's looking at. He's basically going, listen, man, we've got Dearden that we need to protect. You're supposed to be his bodyguard. We've got a rookie there. Even if you miss your tackles, at least hit DCE so he doesn't have time. So I can't begrudge it. It is a tough call. I would have given him another round. However, he has had a couple of years now. We'll see. The proof will be in the pudding. The proof will be in the pudding. And even though it's messy sometimes with the Cowboys, it's up and down, they do make the 8 each year. Outside of one, they have made the 8. So you've got to back Payton in to make the right call. But we'll see. We'll see. Let's get straight into the preview, shall we? Knights versus the Dolphins, Thursday, 8 p.m. Mate, walk us through us, Maestro. What have we got here?
So the Knights team news, big boost for them. Adam Elliott returning to the bench after missing round 1. He takes Bodie Jones's spot. The only change for Adam O'Brien, Fletcher Sharp and Jack Cogger retaining their half spots after that first up win over the Tigers. For the Dolphins, Fini Fuiaki out through concussion, as is Connolly Lemuelu, who fractured his eye socket against the Bunnies. So Oren Keeley comes into the back row with Mark Nichols joining the bench and Cody Nikorima returning at 5'8" in place of Sean O'Sullivan after missing that game with all the action that was happening up there in the Sunshine State. Wasn't so sunny last week, Kempy.
Yeah, was not so sunny at all. Hopefully everyone is recovered from the Cyclone Alfred. Mate, what a game. What a game. Look, I've got to give the Dolphins credit. Like, the ticker that they show as a club, being new to the NRL, like, it could have been a disaster. Think about how well they've done, where you almost forget they're a new club.
Yep.
Like, we've got other clubs that have been around for 20 years, 25 years that are, a basket case. You never really hear any controversy out of the Dolphins. There's no bad things happening. There's no dramas with the board. There's no, they've just been so good and such a positive, a positive asset to the game. And just the way they played on the weekend, they had every right. Their minds could have been off it. They've got all this stuff going on at home and they've got, change places and their families to worry about, and yet they still come out and they actually could have won last week's game. They
probably
really
should have, given what happened in the last 10 minutes.
Absolutely. Like, Tupou I think he dropped one ball, bombed a try or two that he probably should have finished. So he'll learn from that. He's a relatively new NRL player. He'll learn from it. In regards to the Knights, look, a win's a win.
Yep.
Look, scrappy, it couldn't be more scrappy, that win. It was really, really all over the place. But the positive is they created those opportunities, had a bunch of line breaks, and if they executed most of those line breaks, they probably win 13 plus. In saying that, you've got to give a bit of credit to the Tigers. They hung in there, and a part of it was their defence that made them made them drop the ball and all that stuff. So I think both teams, when you look across across the row and you look and see people that are getting beaten by 50 and huge scores put on them, if you're a Knights or a Dolphins fan, even if win or lose, at least it was a tight match.
Yeah.
You look at the Dolphins game, they only had 14 put on them, and you look across, even if you're the Bulldogs, you'd be a little bit frustrated that 20 was put on you towards the end there. So I think there's positives to take out of both. I'm going to go the Knights to get the win. I think that as long as they can just clean up those errors, they'll be a quite tough team to beat. I think Kalen Ponga is just red hot form right now. He looks so ready to go. However, if they play the way they did last week, where they're just going to, bomb opportunities, drop the ball, Dolphins will make them pay. So it's going to be a tough game for sure.
What's the consistent level of the Dolphins this year, Kempy? Where do you have their sort of baseline at that they're working off? Because, as you said, they showed plenty of fight against Souths last week. They just seem to lack that little bit of quality in key moments.
Yeah, I personally would put Donahue in the halves with Katoa.
Right.
I think they just build that combination together. However, they've decided to go a different direction. I don't have them in the top 8, but I just think they're going to be one of those sides that I definitely don't have them winning wooden spoon. I can't see, I just can't see Wolfie as a coach winning a wooden spoon. But I just think that they're going to have enough. They've got enough talent on the board to beat most sides, but they're not going to have the talent to beat your top 6 sides, I reckon. So in a really good year, they might slip into the 8. I mean, they were one game away from last year, and that was with Wayne Bennett as coach. However, I just think that I don't know whether they're going to be able to play 8 out of 10 every week for the whole season, because they're going to need to play 8 out of 10 every week just to make the 8.
Yeah.
So I reckon they're going to be one of those sides that if you're hovering around 4 to 10, it's going to be a tough day at the office for you.
Yeah.
Or maybe even 6 to 10. It's going to be a real tough day. Obviously, 6 to 16 or 17, it's going to be a battle. But I think the top sides are going to be able to, grind them out of a game per se. In regards to the Knights, they're similar to the Cowboys, where they're almost the flip side, where their defense is pretty good, but their attack sometimes can be quite conservative. And that's why, although I was a little bit concerned about bringing Fletcher Sharp into the 6, yes, is he a typical 6? Can he, is he a great kicker or a ball player? Not yet, but he adds spark around the ruck.
Boy, can he run the footy.
Yeah, that's what you need.
Support play.
Yeah.
Support play. That's
Absolutely.
all it is.
Just get him around the ruck. He'll go to the line breaks. He'll create opportunities. KP will be close to him. It's much more dangerous than having 2 halves that are very similar. So I'm going to go the Knights to get the win. Now we've got the Warriors v Manly. Mate, what have we got here, Maestro?
Well, this is interesting. The Warriors, no changes despite the first up beating by the Raiders over in Las Vegas. Andrew Webster staying tight with that 17 to start with. Just the one change for Manly. Josh Alloway into the front row for COR. Takayaho picked up a bit of a knee niggle against the Cowboys, but good to have Joshy Alloway back for my mighty Eagles this weekend.
Mate, it's a huge clash for the Warriors. Like Manly, if they lose this, by 6 points, whatever, obviously they're not going to be happy with that. They should beat the Warriors. But I tell you what, the Warriors, that pressure on these key positions is mounting. And, losing Tohu Harris, Sean Johnson in the same year, plus Adam Fanua-Blake, that's a lot. I think that, Fish coming to the club is huge.
Yeah.
Let's not pretend it's not.
What did you make of him in round one?
I thought he was good. I thought he tried his heart out. Now, look, if you're expecting Adam Fanua-Blake style of rugby league from Fish, that's not what that's not what Fish is. Fish he's a club player. He is a guy, and obviously not a club player, he plays for his country. But what I mean by it is he is a guy that puts the team before himself. So he is, and I'm not saying Adam Fanua-Blake doesn't, but Adam Fanua-Blake, it's more built around him, whereas Fisher Harris more is about the system.
Yep.
And so, what Fish is going to bring, it's all the stuff off the field. That's not going to happen straight away. It's going to take a couple years before people really buy into what Fish is trying to bring. And so I think people expecting Fish to come and run for 200 metres, score a try, have 4 or 5 offloads, that's not what he's going to bring. But the long-term game that he's going to bring, because he's going to be there for the rest of his career, it'll be invaluable because he's going to be able to speak to the young Māori boys, the Tongans, the Samoans, the young Kiwis, even Aussies that want to go over there. And having won 4 premierships, he's going to be able to set a standard that the Warriors, they haven't had in a long time. They got to a premiership. They got to a grand final twice, but it's been quite a long time since the Warriors could really lay a foundation and say this is the expectation we expect as to be at the club. And also that paired with the fact that they're only in their second ever year of having a junior side all the way up to first grade in all the grades. It takes time to reap the benefits of that. I guess the problem is that they didn't, because, and I spoke about this last year, you want to always give a club legend as much time as possible to make the announcement to retire, and I'm sure they probably had the conversations quite early, but I don't think they prepared well enough for life after SJ. I think that they probably should have had to make that call much earlier so they could use that money to go out and get someone else, because at the moment, they got Tanner Boyd, but they haven't got anyone of a, at the moment, I wouldn't say their spine is a top 8 spine.
No.
They can build around that. They've got some bloody good forwards. Barnett and Fisher Harris, they can go literally with the best pairing. They can go with any pairing in the competition. They've got some good forwards, some bloody good outside backs in RTS. But there's just a lot of pressure to get results quickly because, if Chance isn't killing it, you've got RTS and Tuapiki waiting in the wings. And it's like, well, why waste another week? Get them back there. And so they've got that. Then also you've got Tanner Boyd sitting in reserve grade. And if Metcalf can't lead the team around, put him to 6 and bring Tanner in. It's a really tough one for the Warriors because they need results and they need them now.
So I'll ask you the question, how long does Andrew Webster stay with this equation, if you like, at the moment before bringing the changes?
I'd give it 3 to 4 rounds.
Okay.
I'd give it 3 to 4 rounds just because it's not like everyone in that spine, Chanel Harris-Tavita, Tamate Martin, Tanner Boyd, Luke Metcalf, all of them haven't played so much first grade that they're owed a jersey.
Yeah.
They're all earning that jersey. So I'd give them 4 rounds. Then I'd make changes. Then I'd probably give them, because you're not just giving them 4 rounds, you've pretty much given a whole preseason as well. So it's not just 4 rounds, it's the whole preseason. And then I would give the next pairing probably 10 weeks. Because you can't afford to go 4 rounds, because this current pairing, they've got 4 rounds plus a whole preseason together. And so that's why I would move fairly quickly. However, I wouldn't fall into the trap that unfortunately Knights did, where they were just rotating constantly. Yeah. Every 3 or 4 weeks there were changes. So you look, it's a huge week for the Warriors because it could be a make or break week for a couple players. In regards to Manly, look, they couldn't have played much better in the first round. They really couldn't. Now, I know a lot of people go straight to the whole point of we need to see them do it at the business end of the season. But then it's like, well, you just say that every week until the end of the year then, wouldn't you? You got to give them credit where credit's due. They killed it.
Can I question you on Manly? Can you win a comp playing like that, where you just go, we're going to go out and score 40 if they score 30. If they score 40, we're going to score 50. Is that a way to win the competition in 2025. It would change the game, I would say, if they are able to somehow pull that off.
When you got a guy like Tom Trbojevic, maybe. Anyone else, potentially not. And I've got to say, they're one of the very few teams, I think they're the only team to beat Melbourne, Roosters and Panthers last year. I'm pretty sure. So the top-tier sides Manly actually beat. And so they did have a style of footy that kind of did upset the kind of usual style that the other teams played. I think Tom Trbojevic is, and obviously DCE, but if you've got Tommy out the back, maybe you can. But yeah, the question still lingers. In the big games against the best sides, can they take that next step?
Absolutely. Looking forward to seeing it.
In this game, I reckon the Manly get the job done just.
Yeah.
Just. I think the Warriors will come out with a lot of passion. They'll probably win the first 20 minutes. But then I think, Manly will just swing the ball too much. Warriors' edge defense can be, suspect at times. And it'll be a close loss for the Warriors and a close win for the Manly Seagulls. Alrighty, let's get straight into it, shall we? We've got heaps of texts here. Dear Goat and some random who played for Storm. The great Smithy. Oh, the great Smithers. We miss him already. He breaks me heart. I tell you this, Maestro. This is something I learnt long ago. It's better to love and lost than to never have loved at all.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
The Roosters, they aren't getting the best of their players. Satilli is a prime example for the Doggies. I mean, look, yes, you could argue that in saying that Crichton was at career best form last year, but you could argue that their players aren't in the form that you would expect with Roosters players. Now, because the year before Crichton killed it, he was actually quite quiet. Now, granted, that wasn't the Roosters' fault, but I'm just using him as an example. There have been other players that haven't been as high as form. Satilli did hit the ground running at the Dogs. I think we need to see a little bit more from him at the Dogs. It could have just been a big game for him. But again, there are a lot of questions around the Roosters. We need to wait a little bit longer to have the answers to it. But I do think there are questions, so I agree with that. Now, another text here. West in 05 won the comp with score more philosophy. Why not Manly? The Bega Magpie. Potentially, yeah, for sure. I think the wrestle didn't exist then, so that changes everything a little bit. The game became more defensive orientated after the wrestle came in. However, we're trying to get rid of the wrestle. So, as I said, mate, a team with Tom Trbojevic in it, maybe you can just say, we're just going to score more than you do. Now, Panthers team news, we'll just get straight into it. Panthers, To'o returns. McLean recovered concussion. He'll take his place on the wing. Because Alamotti shifts to the centres. Roosters, Radley out with concussion. Anyway, we'll get into it. Panthers v. the Roosters is going to be a tough night at the office for the Panthers, I think. For the Roosters.
Have you ever seen the Roosters as long in a betting market? Most having them around $9 going into this game. Panthers getting stronger with To'o coming back into this side.
Mate, I've never seen a Roosters side. And that's what I mean. Like, regardless of all the injuries and, players leaving, at the moment, it's still not good enough, that round one. It's still not good enough. And the fact that they're at $9 just shows you the pressure the Roosters are on right now. Look, if I'm the Roosters at the moment, if it's a competitive game, that's a win for me. If they were full strength, they should want to win, but they're not. They've got quite a few injuries. I think if they make the 8 this year, the Roosters, that's a positive. I think Robinson's done a great job if they make the 8, but I think it's going to be a tough night at the office. I think the Panthers get the job done.
I couldn't agree more, Kempy. Hey, we've got more games to preview.
Boom. Welcome to the Captain's Run, now known as the Resi Run. I've actually got a text here saying, where's the GOAT? Where's Smithy? Unfortunately, Smithy, he's got so much going on at the moment. He just couldn't have time this year for the show. And look, if we think about it unselfishly, he actually, the game, we've got one of the greatest minds in the game. The best way he can give back to the game, I think anyway, and I just speaking as a mate, is developing the next generation, helping leaders get better because, he's the GOAT. He's one of the greatest. So I'm not sure what he'll do next, but I'm sure it'll have something to do with rugby league. And we're extremely grateful for Smithy for giving the opportunity to have this show as it was. And yeah, I think that whatever he does next, he's going to kill it. And a guy like Cam Smith, you don't actually understand the amount of people that demand this guy's time, like that just because he's Cameron Smith. So for him to even carve out the hours he did for us for so many years was a favour to us. So we have to be appreciative. And as I said, selfishly, we would love to hear him talk about rugby league every week on the Captain's Run. But from a rugby league perspective, think about the knowledge he can pass on to the next generation in part of the club somewhere. Alrighty, let's get into it. Welcome back to the Captain's Run here for Chemist Warehouse. Get discounted prescriptions and save more money every day at Chemist Warehouse. And a massive thank you to Chemist Warehouse. They've been with us for a few years now, so we really, really appreciate the support. Let's get into it, shall we? Dragons versus Rabbitohs, Saturday, 3 p.m, Wynn Stadium. What do we got here, Maestro?
Well, the Dragons, Blake Laurie added to the bench in place of Ryan Couchman. What a heartbreaking season-ending injury that was last weekend with the ACL going. Tyrell Sloan again named in the reserves. And Bailey Bentley Hape set to make his NRL debut on the wing in place of Tyrone Munro, who's undergoing surgery. We talked about that today. And Jamie Humphries retaining the halfback spot ahead of Lewis Dodd. Kempy. Couple of storylines coming out of this one.
Oh, wow. Couple of storylines indeed. I mean, again, huge clash for both sides. You want to get that confidence at the start of the season. Rabbitohs, very scrappy last week.
Yes.
Very scrappy, but they got the win. That's the main thing. They got the win, and there were patches there where you saw Cody Walker back at his best, his slickest. There were patches there. I think the biggest win, round one, arguably across the entire round, is they may have found a 7 in Humphries.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we just saw
games, Kempy.
It's crazy. Crazy. Kicked for 700 metres, had 30 tackles, 0 missed. Unbelievable. And we just saw a bloke get signed for $13 million to play 7 and he's a 6. So if you can land a good 7 in the NRL, it's worth $1 million. Like, yeah, literally, you've landed $1 million player and he's probably on minimum wage, probably on 300 or 400K, which is not minimum, but that's the minimum essentially that you can pay for a half in reserve grade. Mm. And so you could argue it's one of the biggest wins of round one. It's Rabbitohs potentially finding a 7 because he looked good. And yeah, his short kicking game needs a bit of work and all that stuff. Like, just like any rookie coming in needs a bit of work. You make 30 tackles and 0 misses and you kick for 700 metres, that's a pass mark for me. And like, a lot of people are focusing in on the fact that they paid all this money for Dodd, but he's not starting. I don't care. Like, all I care about is, are we winning and do we have a good 7? And so, yes, it sucks that we could have been spending this money on other stuff, but at the end of the day, let's just get the best 7 in there and we can sort the rest out. And also, who knows? Dodd still has plenty of time. It's round 1.
Yeah.
He could develop into a bloody great 7. We don't know. I think you focus more on the fact that Humphries was outstanding. What do you think of Humphries round 1?
I couldn't agree more. And as a Manly fan, I'm very disappointed we let him go after that display. Isn't he a big boy too? For half. Like, you talk about Dylan Brown's value in a defensive sense, which is probably a little bit underrated for halves because we expect so much of them at the other end of the field. But if he's able to keep up that level of performance, he's got Cody Walker next to him. You've got Latrell Mitchell set to come back at some stage during this season. Campbell Graham.
Yeah.
How about that return last weekend? Like, we shouldn't have expected anything less, should we?
Just reminded everyone why he's one of the best outside backs. I say this now. I know that there is a logjam at centre for Origin or wing, but I tell you what, if he doesn't wear a Blues jersey at some stage in his career, it'll be one of the great travesties all time. He deserves to.
There's no chance that doesn't happen.
Like, surely.
No chance.
I mean, he was this close.
Yeah. And
just because he was injured, he missed out on it. So in regards to this game, look, Dragons, they did. If you had watching that first 60 minutes, I'm going, oh, geez, this does not look good. I will say that last 20 minutes did give me a lot of faith. I think they've got to probably use Little a bit more. I think that things opened up when Little came on the field. I think maybe, putting Cook into 13, DeBellin at front row. Like, Cook not to start 13, but maybe after 20 minutes. That's probably going to be the tactic they'll use because I felt like they really did open up when Little did come on. And look, some good signs from the Dragons. Sully was absolutely incredible. Holmes found his feet late in the game, had 3 try assists or 20 minutes into the game. So there were some signs. Gutho was good. There's some positive signs. There's some positive signs for the Dragons.
And Tuipulotu. What did you make of the celebration after the second try? He goes on to score a hat-trick. I mean,
listen, it's so outrageous it's funny. Like, if you're down by 18, given the where's my money, like, it's so outrageous that it's actually funny. Like, I reckon Tuipulotu knows it's so outrageous, and that's what, like, because he's just trolling the opposition. Because he knows that the opposition, the Bulldogs fans, are sitting there going, bro, you're down by 18. But all he's trying to do is get a reaction out of everyone.
And it nearly brought them back into the game, right?
Yeah.
They look buoyed by that.
All he's trying to do is get a reaction. I'm sure Tuipulotu knows that it's silly to be celebrating after you're 18 down. But I think that's what trolling is. When you're aware of what you're doing is to get a rise out of someone. And I think he did it on purpose. I think he was looking at any way, like we saw early in the game, he was chirping at Crichton. So I think he was just looking at any way to get under people's skin, and I thought it was hilarious.
Last one on the Dragons backs before we move in. Sloan in the reserves again. Gutho made a solid start to his Dragons career, I thought. Is there a route for Tyrell Sloan back into this Dragons team at the moment, or is it going to be a wait-and-see approach and hope an opportunity comes up for him?
Yeah, I mean, I think it more be how well he plays in New South Wales Cup. I think he's going to have to wait for an opportunity. I think that They've got out-and-out wingers at that club. Ravalawa is still there. They've got Fainu or Fainai. They've also got the young guy, Fainu, I think. Or apologies, I'm getting it wrong. Fianu or something like that. Apologies. They've also got Tui Pelotu. So they've got options on the wing.
They've got stocks there,
Yeah, so I just think that he's going to have to wait for probably an injury. But he's a bloody handy player to have, and if he can hit his potential, then, who knows? Who knows?
Beauty.
But in regards to the game, Dragons v. the Rabbitohs, I'm going to go... I'll go Rabbitohs in a tight one.
Yeah.
Rabbitohs in a tight one.
Tend to agree. We're agreeing on too much. Right, let's go to Saturday afternoon, Queensland Country Bank Stadium, Cowboys versus the Sharks. As we talked about earlier in the show, catch up on the podcast, Jeremiah Nanai has been dropped, replaced by Kai O'Donnell, set to play his first NRL game since 2020 after 4 years away in Super League. Jason Tamalolo named in the reserves as his recovery from a Liz Frank injury continues. Sharks, unsurprisingly, unchanged after they pushed the Panthers all the way over in Las Vegas. Todd Payton, we've talked about him sending a message. How about for the Sharks? What's going on with their little halves combination? Trindle doing the dominant work of the halves in round one? Are we expecting that to continue, or will Nico edge further into that role as the season goes on?
Man, I cannot.
Or is there too much focus on Nico?
There's too much focus. They friggin' made a prelim last year. They came second in their first year. They've made the top four, I think, top five every single year. Like, if he has to play 6 on $1 million, then he'll do that. Like, would you rather him go, because I'm on $1 million, I have to be the man? No,
and he's not that character.
He's not that character. He's all about, I don't give a shit how I play. I want the team to win. Like, this idea that, like, because he's on big bucks, he absolutely has to be the guy with the ball in his hand. I just don't get. It's one round, and they lost to the Panthers by 6 points. Like, what are we talking about here? They lost to the Panthers. Like, the 4-time premiers, they lost by 6 points, and already we've got questions around Trindle and Hines. I think it's ridiculous. I think that sometimes some players have the hot hand and some don't. Trindle was playing really well, so Hines did the unselfish thing and stepped back and did his job. Like, I thought he was decent, and I just think that, like, it's so silly to sit there and go, well, because he's on $1 million, unless he's getting his hands on the ball more than Trindle, then you've got to change it. It's like, no, whatever makes the team win, then that's what we do. And, like, I saw some people kind of saying, maybe Trindle should be on that money. Like, Trindle's a bloody good player, but he wouldn't win a Dally M at this stage in his career. Like, let's be real. He's got a couple years left, as in he's got years left to develop into the player that he might become. Now, Don't get me wrong. There is a bloody good ceiling there with Trindle. He is so skillful. He's got so many tricks in the bag. He's got a good kicking game. But he's got a long way to go before he's in that kind of category of player. And as I said, sometimes players have the hot hand and you've got to do the right thing and step behind. They lost by 6 points to Panthers. Like, I don't understand why we're talking about halves combinations and moving Hines. Like, any team lost, put it this way, would there be any other team that loses by 6 that we'd be saying that their number 7 has to be dropped or moved to another position?
Not against the Panthers, that's for sure.
Like, Munster was really quiet last year.
Yep.
No one said anything. And then we go, that's because he's won premierships, he's won Storm. I don't think the Storm was sitting there going, you're allowed to have a quiet year because you won premierships. Yeah. He was injured, obviously. But what I'm saying is like, they lost by 6 points to the Panthers. Let's relax on moving players and who cares? Just keep building. It's round 1, a close match against the Panthers. Now, if we get to round 4, 5, and 6 and they're 0-5 or whatever, absolutely think about changing it. But at the moment, I just think it's way premature. I think people are too focused in on Hines. Rather than focus on Hines, focus on how good Trindle was. He was bloody good.
Well, focus on how the guys going up front were.
Yeah.
And Adam Fanua-Blake, who I thought made a terrific start to his Sharks career.
Yeah, like focus on all the positives and also the fact that if they were just a bit more clinical, they could have won that game.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm always a bit. I understand because he's a superstar, he creates headlines, and everyone likes talking about him. I get it, and we're doing it right now. But I just think that 6 points lost to the to the Panthers, mate. I'll take that. I will take that any day of the week.
So
how dominant they are.
Having said all that, are they going to win?
I think that they will probably beat the Cowboys up there. Yeah. I think that Cowboys, for me, I'm just a little bit worried they're not going to be able to go with the grind with Sharkies.
Yep.
They've got a great attack, but they've lost quite a few players. Kyle Felt used to score a lot of tries for them. They've lost Holmes, who used to create a lot of tries for them. And so I just think that it might take them a few weeks to click into gear. Whereas the Sharkies, I thought they looked really good. I thought
The standard of that game was so good.
It's so good. And everyone kept saying, the Panthers always start slow. So, but the Panthers, I thought they looked friggin' good.
Yeah.
Like, just because they notoriously, or they started slow last year or the year before, doesn't mean they're going to have to start slow this year. I thought they looked good.
They started slow for the first 15 minutes or so,
yeah,
right?
Literally, they were clunky for 15 minutes. Their defence wasn't slow, that's for sure.
No.
The defence was unbelievably aggressive. I'm going to go Sharkies to get the win here. What about yourself, mate?
No, I tend to agree. We're agreeing again. No, Sharks to win this one. And I think they'll do it fairly comfortably up there as well.
Yeah, okay.
Dry track, I think they're going to be able to put some points
just
on.
Quickly, got some texts here. Kempy, you can't talk for 2 hours. Get a host in. Had a couple of talks. No, and also someone else said, this is just bloke in a bar then if it's just Kempy. Guys, we will be having guests each week. This is just the first week. We'll be having guest co-hosts in each week. So don't worry about that. But just hang in there. Just stick with me. I'll do my best. Hopefully you stick around. Okay, next game, mate. What are we looking at?
Raiders versus Broncos, Saturday night, GIO Stadium. We've got Corey Horsburgh coming up in about 15 minutes' time. The Raiders team news. Josh Papali'i returns to the run on side in place of the suspended Joe Tapine, and Albert Hopewade coming onto the wing for Xavier Savage, who is also suspended. Just a single week for him. And unsurprisingly, the Broncos unchanged 17 after that big first-up win against the Roosters at Allianz Stadium. What did you make of the first game in the Michael Maguire era?
Yeah, look, it's one of those games where you go, don't get too excited, but it's hard not to. They looked really, really good. I know that the naysayers out there, as soon as you start complimenting a team after round one, it's only round one. It's like, okay, well, tell me the round that we're allowed to start getting
That's
excited.
the evidence we've got, right?
Yeah, we can only talk about what we've seen. If we were always going to go, it's only round 2, it's only round 3, it's only round 4, and then it's only season footy. It's like you just keep kicking the can down the road. They looked bloody good. From what we saw, they looked good. It's that simple. Now, could they come out tomorrow and look terrible? Maybe. I don't know. But we know they looked good on the weekend. What did you reckon of the Broncos, mate?
I couldn't agree more. And I think it's been interesting that Michael Maguire during the week's been singing the praises of the front rowers, basically. I think there's a depth there now with Kobe Hetherington being developed into what looks like not just a first grader, but someone who can be part of a spine that is pushing for a premiership. Everything looks to be going right that way. For some of the effort plays, the Selwyn Cobbo didn't get there for that covering tackle, but the work that he put in to even make a play on that ball was absolutely outstanding. That was the most promising thing I thought I saw out of the Broncos was just those effort areas look so much better than a season ago. No,
I'm with you, mate. And you look at, I think that Michael Maguire has nailed his game plan.
Yeah.
He's gone, why the hell would I split up the best front row combo in the competition of Haas and Carrigan by putting Carrigan at 13 and making his tackle his arse off? Why wouldn't I reduce Carrigan's tackles in defence, reduce the amount of time he's away from the ruck, and make it so that I have Corey Pakes or Moser, whoever it is, Haas and Carrigan? You could argue that's the best platform in the competition to roll on. Now, granted, you could go Nas, Stefano, Grant, with Harry Grant being the real, and Nas being the real standout there. But I'd make the argument, Haas and Carrigan, outside of Leota and Fish in the Penrith system, I think that's the best combination in the competition. And that's a great. You go back and look at a lot of their tries. It was either dumbing to Paddy Carrigan.
Yep.
He had just taken the run before, or Haas had, or dumbing to Haas and going to Carrigan. They just used it so well. And so I think that Michael Maguire's looked at it and said, yes, Paddy Carrigan is a good 13, but I want him around the ruck as much as possible. And guess what happened? He ran for 240 plus metres, 92 post contact, because he didn't have to worry about all that other stuff. He just had to get the ball and run hard. He made 21 tackles. Usually he's making bloody 40 tackles a game. So I think it's a stroke of genius. I actually, a couple of years ago, that was a setup that I had. I thought that it should be Haas Carrigan in the front row and Hetherington in the 13. Didn't eventuate, and it still worked. They still worked out. But I love it. I think Michael Maguire's nailed it. Now, in regards to the Raiders, what a great test for both sides.
Yeah.
Because super aggressive fullbacks. I wish Tarpanair was playing. I think that's going to be a real loss for the Raiders. I have the Broncos winning. But a lot of it has to do with Tarpanair not being there. I actually think the Raiders were outstanding round one.
And it'll be interesting to see how far they can go once those players are back. We might see a little drop-off after that strong start the next 2 weeks, but I think there were people writing them off pre-season. As Ricky said, I don't think there's too many writing them off after that round one performance.
No, I didn't have them in my 8, and I still don't have them in my 8. However, they are much closer, and they're a team you have to worry about because I feel like they're one of those sides that could go really well for 3 or 4 weeks, have two down weeks.
Still a young team, right?
Still super young. And what I like about it is Ricky Stewart has said for years, we are rebuilding.
Yeah.
And so that's like, you can see the plan. It's working. The guys that they brought to the club are playing good footy. And so you got to give them credit. I love watching the Raiders play well. I really do. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. And don't forget, you can join the Bloke Club at www.bloke.club. You go in the draw to win a Mazda BT50. That is given to you by LDC_01 Luke Camilleri, the best in the business when it comes to cars. That's the Bloke Club. It's totally free to join. We give out prizes every single month. We're going to do a bunch of stuff like live events, shows, everything. The Bloke Club. Make sure to join at www.bloke.club. All right, let's get into it. Combank Stadium, Eels versus the West Tigers.
A rematch of Spoon Bowl from last year, Kempy. Excited for this one. 4 o'clock on Sunday. Sean Lane has recovered from a knee injury, and positive news for the Eels. He comes in for Kelma Tuolangi, who's dropped out of the 17. Jordan Samrani set to debut on the wing in place of Jake Tungo. And for the West Tigers, big in, Api Coruscant playing his first game of the season after missing round 1 through suspension. Jareem Buller returning at fullback alongside Stafford Tor in the centres. Tristan Hope and Solomona Fatape dropping out of the 17 there. That's a strong West Tigers side suddenly starting to come together, Kempy.
Yeah, look, I'm going to go the West Tigers here.
Yeah.
I think the Eels are absolutely in the grip of a rebuild. I think that there was a period there where I thought, who knows, maybe they hit the ground running with Riles, but he's basically come out and said, no, this is going to take time. You know, I'm trying to introduce new things and new systems and new styles. And you've got to remember, like, that's what happened to the Bulldogs as well. Seraldo came in, took him a year, and everyone by the end of the year was going, oh, crap, what's going on here? Seraldo, the system's not really working. What's going on? But he just needed another year to get the team that he wanted and the time that he needed to get that system across. He nailed it. And so with the Eels, unfortunately, I think it's going to be a tough season. Granted as well, they also have Mitchell Moses out. If Mitchell Moses was playing, maybe I'd be different, but he isn't. And I think the West Tigers getting Appy back, getting a Jareem back, I think they get the job done.
What do we make of that round 1 performance? You know, they just look a little bit rudderless, don't they, Kempy? It's difficult to see them winning this game. I can't remember the last time the West Tigers went into a game with the Eels as favourites.
Yeah, look, honestly, and this is coming from a guy that played plenty of reserve grade, It looked like first grade versus reserve grade.
Right.
It really did. Or it looked like first grade versus a lot of young first graders, and almost too many young first graders. And that's not a slight on the current playing group. That's not at all. That's the reality of the situation. They've got a lot of young players in key positions that they're trying to build towards the future. Guy Meir, I think he came on. He spent a lot of time on the field. You've got guys like Jack Williams. He's a new recruit. Iongi, he's at the back there, who had a good game on the weekend. Bensini is also relatively young, 22 years old. So there's a lot of young players. Dylan Brown's still only 25. Volkman in the halves. You know what I mean? Like, the list goes on. The list goes on. And so they're just not at that stage yet where you could say there's 17 NRL players that are fully ready. It's more along the lines of there's 17 young NRL players that absolutely have the talent to play NRL, but can they do it week in, week out? And also, can they do it against the best side? And I just feel like it's a mixture of the Eels didn't play well, but I just thought the Storm were immaculate. Like, for the first 60.
A team to come up against when you are unsure of how your side's being put together. I mean, there wasn't a worse matchup for them across the competition, was there?
Mate, they could go down there with their 2022 or whatever grand final they made, and they could still lose by 13 plus. That's how good the Storm is. And I'm saying the Eels could go down there with their grand final side and still potentially lose by 13 plus. That's how good they are in round 1. I don't think they would. You know, there's been a lot of close games between the Eels and the Storm when the Eels were at their peak. But I just think, with the younger side, it was a tall ask to begin with. I probably had a bit higher hopes for the Eels this year, and it's only round 1, so we've got plenty of time to fix it. And Mitchell Moses comes back in 6 to 8 weeks. But it looks like a full-on rebuild at the moment. And I understand why Riles is doing that. Like, you've got 2 options. You just get in straight away and you recruit heavily to try and win a premiership early. Or you say, look, if I'm going to come to the club, I need 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Don't sign me if it's going to be a year and you're already putting pressure on me. Give me time to build something. All righty. What do you reckon, mate, with the West Tigers? We'll go to the West Tigers.
I'm going West Tigers. I think, they've got that side that can push for the 8 if everything comes together. And that's the big if, right? Benji's got to find the right way to combine everything. They've got to find a style of play that works for them. I thought Galvin probably didn't have his strongest performance in first grade coming out of round 1. But again, another young guy. We're talking about a lot of young players for the Eels. The West Tigers are relying on one of the best young players in the competition, but that inconsistency is still going to be there, and that partnership with Jerome Luai is going to take time to sort of come together for them, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to take time. Like, they haven't played a game together.
That's right. That's first, not even a trial.
Yeah, literally not even a trial. So, and also, like, it's going to take Jerome a little bit to just ease into the 7 role. Like, he played a few games over the few, like, he might play 5 games a year at 7. So it'll take time. And a lot of if they had landed 2 or 3 kicks a little bit shorter or kick chase a little bit better, they could have won the game. There was 2 instances where Kalen Ponga got out of the in goal. They scored 3 minutes later, their first try of the Knights. And so that's winning and losing a game by a couple of centimetres. And so that's where I look at it and I go, yeah, okay, the Knights did create opportunities. And if they had executed, it could have been a big win. But at the end of the day, the Knights didn't. And also the Tigers put themselves into position to win it. So I don't mind it. Give them time to gel together. And I think the biggest question for the Tigers is really Benji Marshall as a coach. We love him as a player and as a person. I don't think you could find a single person to say he's a bad bloke. But I think that we're still, and I think Benji would probably even say, I still haven't shown fully what kind of NRL coach I'd be. He's only been in there for a year. And so I think that's the big question. And it's just a question. There's no answer to it. Whether he is or he isn't, I don't have the answer. But I think that is a big question that may be answered probably towards the back end of the year. We'll see what he is like as a coach. Because I'd assume that this is the roster that he has wanted. It's a pretty good roster.
And so for the first time in his career, there's a level of expectation around that club, right? That they, with Luai in that side, with Coruscant, these are guys that have won premierships. So there's an expectation, hey, 17th, 16th, even anywhere in the bottom 4 where you're not pushing for finals, that's a failure of a year, which has been looked upon to some extent like that, but I think there's a pressure that's above that this year for them.
Yeah, I think, look, if they finish anywhere from 9th to 12th, that's acceptable. That's a win for me.
Yeah.
Yes, their roster's good, but it's not that good. Yeah. It's still got some little areas it can fix and sort out. And also, as I said, he's a rookie coach. Yeah. Give him time to develop his coaching style. He's not just a rookie coach in the NRL. He's a literal rookie coach. Yeah. He's never coached before. So give him time to work his magic, the Benji Marshall magic. Alrighty. Stoked to have the big fella from the Canberra Raiders, Corey Horsburgh, on the line. How you going, brother?
Yeah, good, brother. How are you?
Very, very good. Thanks, mate. Listen, I know you're not going to give me the answer, but I need the exclusive. Who won the wrestle? Let's just get it out of the way.
The wrestle?
Yeah, the wrestle.
I personally wasn't there, so I didn't get to see. I'm wondering like the rest of you.
Oh, okay. Just like a politician, mate. Down in Canberra. I like it, mate. Mate, how was the Vegas experience for you, bro? How was it?
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. Obviously, we had our fun early, then we kind of locked in and tried to keep it like a normal week. But yeah, I had a lot of fun.
And look, obviously, you get into round 1, and we've all been through it, mate. You do a preseason, you think you're flying, and did you expect that you would play that well though? Because you guys were outstanding.
Yeah, we probably the best preseason I've personally been a part of at the Raiders. It wasn't easy. We trained pretty hard. Sticky, had his cranky boy pants on this year, so it was a good tough preseason, probably what we needed from Stick. So we're very fit at the moment, and hopefully we can take it into the year.
And what was it like running out in Vegas, Allegiant Stadium, incredible ground, and the fan day? Like, what was that experience like as a player?
It was crazy. It was like a finals field, fans everywhere. I actually got nervous. It was a really good thing to be a part of. Good experience, and whoever gets to do it next year, it's a very fun week.
Mate, everyone's commenting on the fact that you guys look fit. Did you really embrace the kind of tough preseason that you had this year?
Yeah, we obviously lost a bit of experience this year, so we had to get really fit and get these young boys off started. So yeah, we had a real tough preseason, and I think you could tell by the way we played, we were fit. We worked on our line speed and our defence, so that was a big part of our preseason.
And mate, Mal Meninga came to the club last season. What's that been like?
Yeah, good. He's a big, intimidating man, but but yeah, no, he brings a confidence around the joint. He knows what Raiders look like, what they should play like, and he tries to speak up about that when he's around. So yeah, he's been a very positive thing for the club. Yeah.
And for yourself, there was talk that you may be leaving, not leaving, and then you had a heart-to-heart with Ricky. Walk us through, I guess, not the detail, but, what happened there?
We just weren't talking, and I stopped really caring last year, so I just got fat and stopped really caring about my footy, and which wasn't probably the right thing to do at the time. And at the end of the year, we just chatted and kind of mended, and I told him I'll get fit and come back in better shape, and we just obviously started talking again, and I did what I said, he did what he said, and that's kind of how we mended the friendship, which was good, and we're in a good spot at the moment, which is nice.
Mate, it's good to hear, because I'd hate to say, Big Red, you belong in the Raiders jersey, mate. You're a Raider through and through.
Yeah.
Mate,
I love Canberra, yeah.
Mate, you got a young squad. Ethan Strange, Weeks. You got obviously Saunders in the Rezzies, the young fella coming through. You've got KO Weeks. What's it like? Stewart as well in the reserve grade. What's it like seeing some of these young guys come through? Guys like Owen Paddy as well, that was really good on debut.
Yeah, no, it's refreshing. They're all good fellas too, which is a big important thing for the Raiders. We are a very tight group, and the young fellas have all kind of embraced that, and they're really good fellas too. So, and they can play footy. So it's been a good, refreshing kind of year this year with all the young blood and like the new characters, and so it's been fun. They're all very good players and very good blokes, so it makes it a lot easier.
And mate, you're playing the Broncos, notoriously a bloody good pack, including your own as well. So it's going to be a battle up front. How you feeling heading into this one?
Yeah, good. I'm obviously a young Broncos fan growing up. I'm a Brizzy boy. Always loved playing the Broncos, and I'm good mates with a lot of them. So I always it's always a good battle against them over the last kind of few years. We've had our back and forth. So I'm looking forward to the challenge of like the Carrigan and Haas and the likes of their pack, and yeah, it should be a good fight.
What do you reckon you need to identify with the Broncos to really shut them down?
I think just taking the game to them. They're very athletic. Wouldn't say pretty boy, but they're very athletic, and if you don't go after them, they'll put you to the sword. So I think it's important taking the game to them, like being very physical and kind of getting in their face.
And mate, for you this year, what's the end goal? Is it obviously it's a premiership, but individually, what's the goal?
Oh, I just want to start enjoying my footy. Last year I didn't do that, so I just want to play a year first grade. I would love to play some rep on it, but I just want to get to the injury free, and yeah, but the end goal would be nice. But I'm going to take one game at a time, just get fit or stay fit, stay healthy, and hopefully put the Raiders in a good frame for them when finals comes.
Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Got a text here from Freshwater Stormer. Sorry, Kempy, got to disagree with the assessment of the young Eels. The only players you can throw into that bucket are Iongi, Hands, Volkman and Russell. The rest of the squad have close to 100-plus games. So you've got Iongi, Russell, Bensini, although he has 100 games, he's still relatively young. But okay, there's Lomax, Tungor, he's also young. Volkman, young. Dylan Brown being the leader of the team, 25. Hands, relatively young. Taulagi, I don't know if he has played 100 games yet. I think he'd be closer to 50. But then you look at the bench, you've got Riley Smith, he's a debutant. Dury, rookie. Guymere, rookie. And Tuivati, also rookie. Like that whole bench is young. I do think it's a relatively young side. Like I think that's a pretty young side to be rolling out against the Melbourne Storm, or at the very least an inexperienced side. But fair enough, mate. That's the great thing about rugby league. We can have different opinions. Let's get into the preview, shall we? Maestro, what do we got now, mate?
Bulldogs versus Titans, the final game of the round, Sunday 6:15, Belmore. It'll be packed. It'll be buzzing. Looking forward to this one. Josh Curran returning from suspension to take his place on the bench in place of Harry Hayes in the only change from the 17 that beat the Dragons on Saturday for the Bulldogs. For the Titans, first up, Regan Campbell-Gillard starting alongside Mo Fotuaika in the front row. Tino Fa'asuamaleaui back at lock. AJ Brimson partnering Jaden Campbell in the halves as we expected. And David Fafita named to come off the bench. Nice little bit of depth there for Des Hasler first up.
Yeah, look, Titans. Wow. It is It is just the Titans. I can't get a read. I'm always every year
full of promise again.
Yep,
full of promise again,
mate. Every bloody year, I back them in. I say they could be a smoky, not only for the 8, but a friggin' top 4 if they go crazy. And they hurt me. They break me heart. So this is the year, unfortunately, I can't get on them. Right. I think that, look, if the vision of Campbell, Brimo, Kinney can come to life, we could literally be watching some of the most exciting rugby league we've ever watched in our life, literally. And we saw glimpses of it in the trial against the Dolphins, I think it was.
Yep.
So if that is the case, and you can get every forward on the, because that's been the problem with the Titans. They've always had a relatively good forward pack, but when one guy plays really well, there'll be another forward that has a poor down year. And so they've always been like one year it's Fodawaker that has a bloody good year. The next year it's Fafita. Then the other year it's Firmo. And they just need to all be playing, not their best ever year, but like an 8 out of 10. Look, I also would probably put Tino up front, and I've had Randall at 13. I just don't want Tino making unnecessary tackles. Yeah. Use him as an attacking weapon. Similar to Carrigan when you look at it. It's like you got Tino, who is an absolute animal. Mate, don't be doing any of the stuff that Randall could be doing. Get him in the front row and just going straight and offloading and breaking the line, bending the line. But he's in at 13. He still plays incredibly well at 13. And so, yeah, we're expected to see Brimo versus Campbell. Has like the mad scientist, is he onto something? I'm not sure. We'll see. And in regards to the Bulldogs side, the Dragons did come back a little bit in the end, but it was a pretty comfortable win. If you actually watched the game, they scored in the last 10 minutes, I think. The game was over. The game was over. And so, I'm sure Ciraldo was a little bit disappointed with the fact that they let those late tries in, but they looked good. They didn't look like they dropped off. I do, if you go back in hindsight and you look at the Broncos in that round 1, you could tell that even though they still were exciting, they dropped off a little bit. Whereas I don't think you can look at the Bulldogs and say they've dropped off. Granted, the Broncos were in a grand final compared to just a top 6 finish, 6 or 7. However, I think the Bulldogs, I'd be very surprised if they have a massive drop-off. And also, I think, yes, a lot of fans are hoping they'll be in the top 4, but I just reckon top 8 finish is good. That's a good finish for the Doggies because it means you're consistent. What do you reckon?
Well, I tend to agree, but I will ask you. You were low on the Bulldogs going into the finals last year, and you were proven right. Lost in the first week against Manly because you didn't think they I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you didn't think they had to take it to those
just
top
the forward
sides.
Packs. The forward pack I thought was like when in the big games, are they big enough to go with the they did better than I thought they would.
Yeah.
But they've added to that forward pack. That's Tilly.
So to ask you on that point, what are you looking for in the first month to suggest maybe they can take a step up, maybe they're going to be sitting around that same mark, or maybe they do drop off? What are you looking at? What's the key aspect everyone should be looking at in this game from a Bulldogs point of view?
Just defence, really.
Right.
Like, for example, again, that last 10 minutes is really frustrating because if they didn't have that last 10 minutes, they probably win 28-12, which is acceptable. You're keeping someone below 12 points. If their average blows out and they're winning games 30-20, that's when you have a concern because they're not doing the same as last year. So a bit similar to the Cowboys in their first year when they came third. Their defence was unbelievable. They came second overall. They had one of the greatest improvements in defence we've ever seen in the NRL era. I think they were the worst in the comp the year before to second in the comp. And so the Bulldogs, you just want to see them defending their absolute asses off, keeping teams below 16 points. 12 points would be great, but probably below 14 to 16 points per game. I'm going to go the Doggies for a win. Doggies for a win. Where are you going?
I'm going the Titans.
Okay.
I'm flipping. I reckon they're going to come out and prove to us that they're going to have a big 2025.
Alrighty, that is the first show of 2025 done and dusted. Don't forget, guys, join the Bloke Club for free at www.bloke.club. We give away prizes every single month, with the first month being $2,000 and the grand prize in 4 months being a Mazda BT50. Thanks to Luke from Aspley Mazda. You go to LDC_01 and you will see he's the best in the business. So join Bloke Club. It's completely free. And basically, we'll be honoring prizes every single week at bloke.club. Massive thank you for listening. Next week, we'll have a co-host with me for the first hour, most likely. We've got plenty planned this year. Make sure to stay tuned. It's going to be an absolutely incredible year, and thank you for listening.